Good morning, new lower sixth, and potentially your parents and guardians. So, as we can see from the screen, there's a new personal statement structure that's due for UCAS 26, which is when most of you'll be applying. So, it doesn't mean that the personal statement's been scrapped. So, the personal statement is a very important document. It helps universities understand you beyond your grades and lots of your motivations for study. They've just made it a bit more obvious how to fill the form in, and actually, these questions that they now use, well, it's pretty much how we've been teaching personal statements for the past decade. So they've just made it a bit more obvious, and it's really aimed at schools that don't have a huge amount of support structure and just made it a bit more obvious, really. Which means you all need to make sure that you're competing in the way that you would normally do, and you'll be fine. As you can see, I've highlighted important words because you need to understand that this is your application and it's what you need to do to prepare a competitive application so you can go to the university of your dreams. So it's very important that you take that on board by the end of this presentation. I'm sure you know that anyway. So here's the question. So question one, why do you want to study the course? Well, it seems a bit obvious, really. I'm not going to read through the paragraphs. I've just highlighted some of the key messages. Now, if you're coming out with superficial statements in your personal statement about why you want to study, I have had a passion for medicine since coming out of my mother's womb, or some other cliche that we might see, you're going to stand out for the wrong reasons because other people really want to go to that university course. Now, you might want to go to that university course, but you need to demonstrate that with real tangible pieces of evidence that aren't just peppered with cliches. So it's important you think about your university now and you think about the course now. You look at the units, you look at the assessment methods, and I'm going to remind you of all of this in this presentation. But why are you a good fit for the university, and why are they a good fit for you? Okay, and it's interesting how UCAS have put this into their description of how to answer this question. Why are they a good fit? So if you're choosing a university like Cambridge, for example, that predominantly teach through small tutor groups, you'll be in a room with 10 other students and you'll prepare for that tutor group meeting and you'll basically argue and debate about theory. Fantastic. Is that you? Do you want to be in that group of one person in a group of 10? Or do you want to go to University of Manchester and be in a lecture theatre with 300 to 500 other kids studying a subject? You still go to a world-renowned, brilliant university, but it's a totally different experience. Okay, so why are they a good fit for you? And remember, you need to choose 5 university courses, so you can't just focus on one university. How has your qualifications and studies helped you prepare for the course? Okay, so you've chosen A-levels, B-Techs, and also you've done some extra qualifications possibly, or courses or work experience or stuff like that outside of school. Okay, so how are these directly linked? Well, they're transferable skills. Well, have a look at the skills that the degree is going to develop in you. Look at the course specification. You've got to look far beyond just the course title, especially as the course title doesn't really tell you much about the course. So my subject, business, well, business and economics, business and finance, business analytics, it's pretty much the same course, really, when you look at the units. Okay, so you've got to look beyond it. What else have you done? Yeah, lots of yous here, to prepare outside of education. And why are these experiences helpful? Well, it's helpful in preparing you for university. It's helpful in you building not only the academic abilities, but also those personal characteristics, resilience. You're going to be pretty much abandoned at university. How are you going to survive? How are you going to be that independent academic student? Yeah, lots of universities will have 10 to 20 hours worth of lectures a week, some more, some less, and they'll have 30 to 40 hours of independent study. Okay, the more academic the university, the more independent study. So you need to make sure that you choose the right course and the right university. Okay, so here is a quote that I've taken out of a supercurricular guide. And if you're going for a competitive university, which you should all be considering that, then you need to demonstrate that passion, interest, and love of that subject beyond the classroom, doing something a bit more. Well, you can go to our university taster academic sessions at school if you want to, and we're putting those on each week in each department in the new year for you. So go along. You can be a passive participant and just sit in the back of the classroom. Probably not going to get the most out of that experience, or you could volunteer, do some research, do some presentations, develop some of those other skills, including leading and presentation skills, collaborative learning, all the stuff that you might see in the assessment methods of a university course prospectus. Okay, so think about it. There's lots of supercurricular guides on the internet, so just Google it. Have a look at the course spec of one of the courses you want to apply for. Look at the things that they recommend. Some of them will tell you exactly what they want to see in a personal statement. So it's really important that you read what the universities put on the internet for you. Now, there are some stats you need to understand. Those of you that love statistics will be instantly smoothing out this curve. Up here, we can see we've got COVID. So university numbers for 18-year-olds are steadily increasing year on year. Okay, this is a blip, remember. So it means that you are in more competition for other students. Now, even though there is a slight reduction this year, just gone by the way, so 2024 applicants, there are more offers out there. Now, one way to interpret this is during COVID, some universities offered places, and then suddenly we were marking our own work and lots of people got their predicted grades and universities got caught out. So lots of universities have been not under offering but offering less places in recent years. Now what we're seeing is there's an increase in the amount of offers that are out there for 18-year-olds, which makes me think that there's going to be less flexibility on results day this year. We will find out in the assembly that I will do for you. I will know the answers to that. But with more competition, there you need to think about what they're going to be looking at. Well, they're going to be looking at your GCSE results. Is the only thing that they know about you. So if you've got a weak GCSE profile that meets the entry requirements, your personal statement better say something about how you've actually improved your academic ability. And just a predicted grade for your A-levels or BTECs or both is not enough. And you need to, so if you've just about got the minimum requirements for maths, well, have something in either your tutor reference or in your personal statement that says how you've developed your quantitative skills. It's not hard. Go and have a look at the course spec, and if you're applying for a course that's heavy in quantitative analysis and you've only got the bare minimum GCSE requirements, I think there's something you can talk about as a strength in your personal statement. Okay, more competition. We need to make sure that we continue to up our game every single year with the quality of personal statements and applications we put forward. It also means you need to have a spread of choices when you get to the end of the lower sixth and you're choosing courses, and you'll submit your choices in the Michaelmas term of the upper sixth. So you can't go for just straight 3A star universities. Because you need a bit of a backup, even if you are a straight 3A star. That doesn't mean you compromise. It means you learn to play the game. You learn to see which universities have got a higher acceptance rate. You see which ones will give you a grade reduction for an EPQ if you get an A grade in your EPQ. Which ones like certain course mixes, for example. Okay? Think about all those things. We can help you. We can advise. Come and ask for help, and then we'll be able to help you. So this is building on more students have got university offers, and the last thing we want is for the universities to not behave kindly on results day. We've got very good success rates at school. Excuse me. And part of that is because we give realistic advice and guidance to our students and parents. And it's really important that you listen to it, because we don't know everything, but we've got experience of this. We don't want to get in the way of your dreams. We want you to aspire to that top high tariff university. However, you also might want a bit of a backup, and you need to visit all of them. 20 something percent of students drop out in the first year of university. Now, quite a lot of that is linked to just not liking the environment or not liking the course because it's got too many exams. Well, you can do all of that research before you even submit your applications, can't you? So go to open days, read the course spec, speak to students that are on the course, speak to the student reps, speak to the universities. Yeah, they want your business, so go and talk to them. We'll get them in for careers talks as well if you want to, and if not, we'll get them in through Concord and Victory, and you can interview them. So there's changes in the international market. You'll hear a lot, especially with some of the Scottish universities, that they prefer international students. Number one, the international students, non-EU, will pay higher fee rates, and Scottish universities, especially the Edinburghs of this world, they will offer a third of their places to Scots, a third of their places to international high fee payers, and a third to European Union. And England have been bundled in with the European Union. Now, not all Scottish universities behave like Edinburgh, and Edinburgh aren't the best university for all courses. So we'll talk about league tables and considering subject specialist areas of certain universities in a bit. Okay, so this is your first screenshot of Unifrog. The school pay a small fortune for Unifrog. You should use it, and because there's more competition in some universities from internationals, less than you would expect. I'm not telling you that you're disadvantaged if you're a UK student, but you should be looking at UK universities, even if you think you only want to go to the US, and vice versa. Okay, so it might be that you decide that you really want to study something, you want a bit of a flexible degree. Well, maybe consider the US college system. Okay, so you have to think about other universities that are out there. It might be that you just want to go to the UK. All my kids have been to UK universities, or they are at them, and they didn't consider international. But there's a growing demand for international universities at school, and that's why we have a full-time international university advisor who you should go and see if you've got any questions about anything beyond UK. Okay, so what can you do? Well, you can read those bullet points there, which we'll explore in a bit. Now, this screenshot here is from an existing personal statement guide. This one's from University of Newcastle, actually. It's a very good guide. Everything it says fits in with the new personal statement structure. And that's because UCAS haven't really changed it. All they've done is they've given you some scaffolding questions to prompt responses. Okay, so advice hasn't really changed. They've just made it a bit more obvious. So identifying the courses, well, go and research the potential courses. Go online. Universities are punting for your business. They will try and paint this rosy picture of life at their university, as they all will. They want you to have as much information as possible. And again, they don't want you to drop out, by the way. So, they want you to have the true picture of what it's like, because there's no point you getting there, getting unhappy and dropping out. That's counterproductive for everyone, including the university's finances, by the way. So you need to read the course specification. I know it sounds a bit obvious, but lots of students will read the course title, and yeah, that's about it really, and maybe the entry requirements. So, and I know this because people come to me every single year and they'll say something like, what's the difference between business and business in finance? And at this point, I normally roll my eyes and say, go and read the course description. They might be the same course. Okay? When you go on to a university degree, what you'll find is you can choose lots of optional units, and that might change the name of your degree slightly, but normally when you apply to a degree, it's in a faculty, and then you can choose different units, different pathways. Different universities work in different ways, and there's no surprise because they accredit their own degrees. It's not like with your A levels where you might have Edexcel and AQA who are working towards the off-qual standards for economics or something. Universities pretty make up their own rules. Okay, so it's all going to be different. So read the instructions. So assess your strengths and interests, and again, read the course spec. They will tell you what they are going to develop in students when they go to university. So have a look at the skills and characteristics that they hope to develop and then map them to your interests and skills. And that's really important because you want to be in rapport with the person that's reading your personal statement. Your personal statement is a marketing document and you're marketing yourself. So you want to be aligned with the course. Okay, so consider your career goals. Now, if you don't know what you want to do, that's absolutely fine. You're 16, 17 years old. However, you might have a rough idea. You might be on a path. You might be wanting to use university to understand more about potential career opportunities, but you just love a subject. That can go in a personal statement, and that's fine. However, if you are focused on a career goal, then actually you can start doing some work experience and developing understandings of how it links into the courses that you're applying to. That's what needs to go into the personal statement. So again, Unifrog. You can go into Unifrog, stick in your predicted grades. I put in ABB as an example, and you can see that this little red bit here is telling me that I shouldn't really apply for these courses, but Unifrog aren't going to get in the way of my dreams either. And if I want to study at KCL, because they're one of the best business schools in the UK, maybe I love London, and maybe I think that I'm going to be able to up my game under that, there we go, A star AA. Maybe I think I'm going to up my game in the sixth form. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe that's my stretch and challenge. As a bit of a more realistic based on my GCSE profile or based on the feedback from my teachers. Remember, you don't actually get your predicted grades until the end of the lower sixth because they're based on your end of lower sixth exam results. Maybe I've decided actually it's more realistic that I'm going to apply for a BBB. I've did really well in my end of year exams, which is why I've got my A star AA, but realistically I still want to go to London. I still want to go to a really good business school. Nothing better than studying business in the city. And I could pop to the Bayes School of Business, for example, which is at City University. And this is sort of me on a reasonable day. This is me on a phenomenally brilliant day. And this is me. And I'm going to be happy at both of them. And then maybe as an absolute backup course, I might look at something else. Now, to be honest with you, there's safety in there's safety. If I've got a predicted grade of A star AA, I'm not going to look at any of these foundation courses. Just because Unifrog has put them up doesn't mean I'm going to listen. Unifrog's not judging me. It's just giving me some advice. So maybe I would go look at the wonderful University of Swansea with their own beach. Their own beach. And maybe I wouldn't look at their foundation course, but what I would do is I'd go and speak to them. Okay, they've got a good business school there, a good mid-ranking business school. Not in London last time I checked though. So I'm looking at KCL, so I click on the hyperlink and it brings me up some information on KCL. It links me to their website, it talks to me about contextual offers, just in case that's me. The majority of you will not qualify for that. It talks to you about what scholarships might be available at that university or scholarships that are linked to that university course. And that's really important for you to understand as well. And then I can look at accommodation if I'm really that advanced. and also the costs, because the costs of accommodation in London will be a little bit different than sunny Swansea. Also on this page, there's a getting in section, which I really like. And this over here, we've got university facts and rankings, which I'll come on to. And it tells me a lot about it. So additional requirements you must have obtained. And this is a minimum of grade 6 in my maths. Now, if you don't have grade 6 in maths, don't apply, because they'll decline your application. No matter how good your A-levels are, they're going to decline that because you've not met the minimum entry requirements, or because you're watching this video or you've attended the assembly at the beginning of the lower sixth. Resit your maths. Okay? Most universities won't care if you've had to resit your maths. Some will, but the majority won't. Use the internet and you'll find out which ones. So for example, with KCL, you could resit. If I've got a grade 6, I'm thinking I really want to go to KCL. I know they're a brilliant business school. I know there's lots of maths in this qualification because I've looked at the spec online. I'm going to see if I can get a 7 or an 8 because I know I'm capable of it. It could be that I get a grade 6. I'm thinking grade 6 was me on a very good day. I'm not going to bother resitting. I've got the minimum requirements, but I'll make sure I do some extracurricular stuff that I can put into my personal statement that says about my love of maths. Okay? So play to your strengths. But do the resit in the lower sixth, not the upper sixth. You'll have enough to worry about in the upper sixth. Okay? It then tells you about success rates. And it says, with the types of A-levels that I put in, so I put in business, economics and maths, I think. That's the success with those grades. They got A star, A star, A to get an offer. Remember, the entry requirements are up there, but that was the average grade profile. That tells you a lot, by the way. It also says that only 4% of applicants were successful. Take that on board when you're looking at some other universities that might have 80%. Okay, there's a high likelihood of you getting in. Now, we're looking over here for rankings. Now, I'm not a great fan of rankings, to be honest with you. But they are a brilliant starter. You can have a look at them, see who's in the top 10 or 15, and then go and look at the universities. You will be surprised for some subjects. So the mighty University of Edinburgh, which is a beautiful, very pretty university, it's a bit of a tourist attraction, which means they will ask for higher grades. And it is a good university, by the way. But there are some universities out there that are far better than Edinburgh for some subjects. Don't just look at rankings for universities. Don't just look for ones that you've heard of. There are some universities out there that are world class that might not be in the top 10 for universities in the UK. Okay, but they'll be in the top 10 for their subject. So we start off with this. Here's some rankings. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to have a look at some of these rankings. So this is the Guardian one. And you can see, I've put business in there because that's what I teach. And we've got St Andrews, Oxford. They offer one business course. The LSE, not that they like the business A-level, but hopefully you've got maths and further maths for that. Then we've got good old Coventry, Warwick. And then we've got Bath, very pretty. And the rest you can read. Oh, look, Edinburgh's number 9. Okay. Now, I'm thinking it's easier, not easy, but it's easier to get into Loughborough, Bath and Warwick probably than it is to get into Edinburgh for business. So understand how the rankings work. It tells you how the rankings are. So St Andrews, 92.5% satisfied with the teaching, and Edinburgh, 74.4%. Can read into that whatever you will. Now that's one ranking, and let's have a look at this one. So this is the complete university guide for 2025. Okay, so this is the newest one. The one before that was for 2024 because they've not released their new one yet. And we can see that these rankings move around every year. Excuse the squiggles that are left on the screen, but we can see that University of St Andrews is number 6. Now, hang on. They're first, according to The Guardian, and now they're 6th. Well, that's because different rankings use different metrics. So it's quite important for you to understand that. But more importantly, we can see that I know, University of Bath, for example, they've gone up one place, they've knocked KCL down, so our initial search for KCL, well, maybe I'm thinking I want a really good business school, I want a city, I want something that's relatively close to an international airport. Well, maybe I'll look at Bath. You've got Bristol Airport down the road. There's a coach that goes from Bath University to Bristol if you want to go clubbing every Saturday night, because Bath is beautiful but not known for being a metropolis. And they're second according to the Complete University Guide. Okay, now because they're higher ranked than some other universities, for instance, Exeter is very popular with our students and a very good business school, by the way. It'll be harder probably to get into Bath than it will be to get into Exeter. Okay, but if you look at the course specs on their website, the entry requirements are relatively the same. Come and talk to me if you don't understand why it might be more difficult to get into Bath. So, looking more at Bath, we're going to go into Bath now because I'm amazed that they're number 2. Who would have thought? So we can see that you can go on to the course requirements. Now, this is the true gem. You've got to find all your information on here. So the universities will tell you a lot more than Unifrog or the Complete University Guide and stuff like that. And also, this is where we get introduced to Wendy. Now, Wendy, I'm sure there'll be a different student union rep pop up when you go onto the website. Wendy is doing business. Quite good. Maybe I've got some questions for Wendy. Wendy's probably paid by the university to be on call to answer questions via social media. So she'll be an existing student. She will understand Bath. She'll understand the courses to a point. She'll understand society. She'll understand where the cheapest beer is. And all of those important things of going to university. Okay, I chose this course, by the way, because it comes with work experience. If I was you, I'd be doing a 4-year degree and doing a year in industry. And we can see that Bath splits it over 2 6-month work placements. You get 2 different work placements. Okay, there's no guarantee of these work placements, but the universities are very, very good at helping you find the work placements. When you speak to universities, ask them how they're going to help you get these work experience placements. Okay, some universities are better than others. Bath are brilliant, by the way. No bias here. Then I want to know a bit more about the course, because I'm not just going to go, oh, it's a business course. Let me go and ask my teacher what's the difference between business and finance. I can see there are some mandatory units in here. Okay, now the optional units will be in the course specification, but for now, I've got business, society and law. It's quite nice. Love a bit of law. Data analysis, that sounds very mathematical, and if I click on that, it will tell me that that is quite quant heavy. We've got accountancy and finance. Last time I checked, there's a bit of quantitative in that. We've got a bit of econ. Hang on, it's called a business course. Why is there economics in it? Well, that's because economics is business and business is economics, pretty much. Bit of marketing, people, sounds a bit like the A-level in business. And then we can see that year 2 is when they've brought in my first work experience placement, where lots of universities leave that till year 3. Okay, so I can actually look at the units. I can also look at how these are assessed. And if I've got any doubts, I can speak to Wendy or Wendy's mate. And even though Wendy's still on call, yeah, she's following me, I'm thinking about offers here, and I've got an alternative offer. Now, the course is normally AAA, but if I do an EPQ and I get an A grade in it, I get a grade reduction. So those of you that have decided not to do an EPQ, it's not too late to sign up, to be honest with you. It's very, very important that you understand the importance of the EPQ. Not only does it demonstrate your independent research skills, not only does it help you explore a subject hopefully related to the degree you want to study, because it will show an understanding and love of the subject, it also gives you a backup without it being a backup. So I could apply to KCL with A star AA. I could then go to Bath and I could apply for a AAA course, but really I get an offer of AAB, because as long as you listen to your EPQ teacher, you should get an EPQ grade A. Okay, it's not difficult as long as you follow the instructions. So think about the value of this. The alternative offers are very important for you to have a look at. Sometimes, so for instance, if you've done maths, core maths or AS, then they'll give you a grade reduction as well. Lots of people at school do AS maths, for example. Anyway, so we can see the typical offer is AAA or A star AB. Yeah. And you can see they're only looking for 3 A levels. So those of you that think that you're going to get a strategic advantage from doing 4 A levels, you're generally wrong. If you're doing maths and further maths, well, that's sort of one subject to some universities, but lots will count it as 2. And I don't know, if you're doing maths, physics, I don't know, politics, and BTEC in engineering. Not all universities that you want to study engineering at, for example, will recognise the BTEC in engineering. Most will, by the way, at nearly all of them. But you can hedge your bets with that as well. So do some research. It'll help you choose the right courses. So we're then thinking about what's the learning style. Yeah, and I know we're identifying course still here, but I need to know, am I going to enjoy all of these? Okay, my assessments through coursework and examination. Well, I sort of expected that, but how much? Because if it's mostly examination, lots of people don't like exams. Some people hate coursework because it's not very independent. So you need to think about what's going to play to your strengths. I can then go into a tab called Learning and Assessment. Okay, and we can see, which is obviously what this was, I can see timetabled hours, 20 hours a week in the first year, and I need to be rather independent for up to 30 hours a week. Hang on, that's like 50 hours in a week. Gosh, it's like having a job, isn't it? And then you might have a part-time job on the side as well. So you need to make sure that you have the bandwidth to cope with this sort of thing. Okay, read the specification, and if you've got any questions, do you remember who you need to speak to? Could be Wendy, or the equivalent of Wendy at any of the university pop-up windows that you'll get when you go onto their website. Now, there are other universities to Bath, not that we acknowledge that much, but so for example, Imperial. I'm a big fan of physics, by the way. We've got a few of our students that went to Imperial to study physics this year, and it's really important that you understand the admissions process, which is why they put it on their website. Do they accept A-level BTEC mixes? Most universities do, not all. Go and double check. And if they do accept BTECs, will they accept more than one? And if they accept BTECs, will they accept your BTEC? Because sport BTEC is not the same as sport science. The clue is in the title, and one has more science than the other. So you need to make sure that your subject mix is going to be accepted, and don't just take someone's word for it, because they might be wrong or their information might be out of date. Now, the reason I've chosen Imperial is because they're one of the universities that do admissions tests. They're one of the universities that tend to interview people, not for all courses, but you need to double check if it's you. So we need to understand the course structure, we need to understand the entry requirements so we can go in and do that sort of thing, and we need to contact admissions. We know that, that's not a problem. Go and speak to them, go to open days. Virtual open days are okay if you're on the fence about university, but you need to physically visit the university before you select them, really. And if you can, try and stay there the night, not the university, but in the city. Since you're going to be there for 3 to 4 years, you might want to know if you're going to like it or not. Bath is very nice, by the way. So, this university, this is Imperial still, they tell you what they're looking for in their personal statement. They tell you the same advice that we're giving you. And they give you some examples as well. Okay, so you can see that theirs is slightly out of date. It'll be up to date by the time you apply. Now, they also talk to you about admissions tests, and they've listed the tests here. There's hyperlinks to the tests that can tell you where to get your free resources. You don't need to pay a company to prepare you for these tests. There's plenty of information out there. You will book the tests yourself. And we are there to help you. We have extra clinics at school that you can go along for help with. and there's loads of information online. You need to be independent, you need to be resilient, and you need to be ready for these tests. And if they interview, then you're going to need to be ready for the interviews as well. Again, we can help with that, but we can help you prepare. We can't do it for you. It's not us being interviewed. Now, if you're being interviewed at a university, they will tell you about the format. They will tell you what they want to achieve, what they want to see in the interviews. They will make this stuff crystal clear. Again, you don't need to pay a consultant to tell you what the universities have written on the website or what the university would tell you if you went to an open day. Okay, sign up for their newsletters, go on to their blogs or TikTok channels or something. Okay, there's loads of information out there for you. Okay, so they want applicants from all walks of life, not just people that can afford to pay private consultants. Okay, you need to take ownership over this. We can help you, nudge you in the right direction. So, preparing competitive university applications, we need a strong personal statement. I'm not going to read all the bullet point for you. It's sort of echoing what we've already said in the video so far. You need to gain relevant experience, and if you don't know where you're going to gain that from, well, go and find it. Yeah. So when I know one of my children were at school, they wanted to start a new society at school, so they did. It was a strong element of her personal statement. And now she's at university, she's just started a new society. So if you think about these things, so I've written Concord and Victory down there. Go and speak to Mr. Bicknell, and he will welcome you with open arms to come and write articles in the student magazine or to interview universities or industry leaders about your subject. Maybe you can do presentations for Concord and Victory. There's so much that you could do. Okay? Don't just be that passive person that turns up to an assembly every now and then and does the minimum you can get away with. You're not going to get into a top university if you do that. Okay, so internships, work experience, that could be virtual and in person, probably a bit of both, to be honest with you. The new virtual work experiences are very good. They're not a huge commitment of time, and it gives you experience in different elements of a career. So engineering is not just engineering. There's lots of different areas of engineering, for example. And volunteer, not just for the weekend or following your parents around for a week whilst you're on school holidays. Volunteer for a year or 2 years during school holidays. We've got volunteering activities at school. That's a nice, easy way to volunteer, I suppose. But why don't you do some other volunteering? Okay, there's lots of things you can do. Be interesting when people read your personal statements, which means being interested, of course. So we need good references. Well, you need good references. And you also need to make sure you're talking to the person who's going to write your reference for you. So your tutor will write your reference for you. They may not be a subject specialist in the area. They don't need to be, because they can read the course spec as good as anyone else. And they can ask for subject specialist advice. But you go to the subject specialist. Okay, you go and speak to your teacher and ask them for help. Yeah, what advice would they give you? Don't ask them for recommended reading lists. Go and find it yourself. But they might be able to critique. They might be able to help you with your personal statement. They might be able to help you, just debate things that might prompt and get you to think differently. Also, bring some mates with you as well. Bring your study buddies, and you can have that debate with your teachers, can't you? Now, the brag sheet is really important. If you understand what the course is looking for, you can write down what you've achieved or what you plan to achieve and how it demonstrates the characteristics of a good student for the course you want to apply for. Now, if you actually keep that in an Excel sheet, you can give it to your tutor at the end of the lower sixth. Their reference is going to be brilliant, by the way. You only give them the stuff that you can't fit into your personal statement. And they will be able to write you this beautifully well contextualized and crafted reference. Okay? We will ask all your teachers for references, so we'll get subject specialist stuff, but you also need to tell your teachers what you're applying for at university as well, because they might be able to give you something specific. So in my subject business, I always ask my lower six students what they want to study, and if it's anything that I wouldn't normally include in my lessons, I'll make sure that I do, or I get them to do a bit of research, or I set a bit of prep around, I don't know, the valuation of artwork for our history of art students, analysing Northampton Saints accounts versus, I don't know, their wage rates versus their debt ratios versus them winning the championship this year. That sort of thing's easy to fit into lots and lots of different lessons. It's not very easy if you don't tell your teachers what you want to study, by the way. So, if you've got entrance tests, make sure you prepare for them way ahead of the deadline. And there's only one guarantee of a good grade. Well, not guarantee, but a better chance of getting a good grade in your entrance tests and for your interviews and for your portfolios or for your auditions, and that is to prepare. So make sure you prepare for your entrance test like it was one of your final A-level exams, okay? And take ownership over your own revision. So check your deadlines, make sure you write them down, and also let people know when the deadlines are. They'll ask you, that's their job, but it's your job to go away and find the information. Okay, it's your job to make sure you're prepared for those deadlines. And if you miss a deadline, it's your fault, it's no one else's. Make sure your application is proofread. Now, you can use a bit of Grammarly. You could use a bit of AI. Don't use AI to write your applications, obviously, because that's plagiarism and the universities have software to detect it. But get it to proofread it. If there are spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes in your personal statement and you're applying for an academic course, if I was the admissions tutor, I would delete your application because you've not bothered to proofread it. So if you can't be bothered to proofread your personal statement, what are you going to be like as a student? Okay, so take ownership, proofread it, use the technology that's out there and make sure it's perfect. Then, when you think it's perfect, when you've done all of that hard work yourself, then maybe take it to a teacher, then take it to your parents or guardian. Get someone else to read it to give you some perception of how to improve it. Don't send them your partially completed work because it's wasting everyone's time. You send them your best work or go and speak to them about any gaps and then maybe you can discuss how to fill the gaps. Okay? Don't take shortcuts. So, how can you prepare your competitive university application? Well, it's you and it's yours. In the assembly, I'll ask, give some chocolate prizes for the 3 UCAS questions. Here they are, and you can see how much they have related or linked into you, and it's your application. Okay, we're here to help. Come and speak to us. You've all got a link to my diary so you can book an appointment. Go and speak to our International University Advisor. Go and speak to the heads of department because they're the specialty faculty members to do with your subjects that you're studying. And think about doing the EPQ if you've not already signed up. Hopefully that was useful. Have a good day.